I am so happy to recommend and introduce my dear friend Kerry Trautman.
Okay, that's like kind of too much to like live up to.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna start my timer. So, you know when you travel and it feels weird because it's not home, and then you get home from having traveled and your house feels weird. That's kind of where this poem came from, and it happened that I wrote it during lockdown. I had to fit in a trip to Miami and then New Orleans, and then the world shut down. So it was even weirder to be home. Like, weren't we just doing something super cool? Now we're back in this fucking house for God knows how long. Anyway, that's what this poem's about. Blue Ridge, Brown Water. How to come to terms with the peaks themselves, the rock elevation, when back to low ground life. How to embrace the temporary, not homeness of days away, the not winterness of July. A basket of figs and apricots ripened by the sun, ruined lacquered in layers of lustrous red, true and never fades, even when it snows and green is gone. We never even got to garden, never got to slip off shoes or toes in grass or creek. How to retain that one day in French Quarter steam. We emerge from these lilac fogs, these museum wood creek floors and foreign riverbanks curving brown who knows where but never home. And the lights of home are squinty, bright, and walls of home aluminum and busy. Our shoes won't fit anymore, and the phones won't stop ringing. Embrace mountains rather than fight. You don't have to answer. Tuck white bliss from clouds in your pocket. Just like a split second of green moment at sea level or below, like Mardi Gras kings and queens and marching brass, often grotesque, often beautiful, always unexpected. How to be away without comparing it to pink home. How to return home without ache. A baby emerges from a mother's body, blue and calm. A red phone rings in an empty room. Pretend it's King Oliver. Inhale elevated rock. Pay homage as well to estuaries with fishing pole or oil paints. There is a fatalistic sigh at the other end of the line. Diagnosis. I am a chrome vinyl mirror marble hotel lobby, reflective, not plush. No, I'm not, but I armor the floral compost of my body practically. How a hotelier appreciates impermanence, ease in wiping memory of skin from skin. What sort of itis is this that I have? Who wouldn't want to be wrapped in another's body like a sleeping bag in the forest floor with crickets and Orion's belt unwound dropped to the ground? Or sitting sangria drunk on a Lake Erie sandbar, water lapping your ribs, ass sunken sand. I suppose it's some genetic disease or calcified nerve endings. Vinyl has its uses, but so do ostrich leather, silk, velour. What pill can I swallow with black coffee in my 7 a.m. kitchen to melt linoleum to a fake bearskin rug with wide eyes, to move into my body permanently, untape the boxes, let anyone stay. A drowning person doesn't always look like drowning. The polio survivor in the iron lung knows how few technicians there are to repair such machines. How can a man sleep with airflow vulnerable to snapped bolts and power grids? Everything can rupture under the right burden, even femurs or railroad bridges. Weaknesses splintered into, like all the awful things we save up to say to people we love in just the right fight moment. These lungs I choke with are the same sacs that once filled themselves with my mother's fluid. Clavicles and ribs that crack can't be fiberglassed into casts. Rather, the body around them must agree to rest the muscles bent on tugging those bones around. Let this be apology to the bones of my 10-year-old self for having grown old, having stretched them thin like pulled taffy, having loaded them with weight of sorrow and cake. Someone invented the motorized, rotating bed my father's comatose body was strapped into like a pickup truck bed of lumber, tilting his mass left or right every other hour to keep fluid from tide-pooling his lungs. How can a woman sleep, knowing all the songs she stopped her lungs singing? Imagine your rib cage made of brass, and how many birds could rest safely inside, and how their songs would echo out of your mouth opened like the lid of a music box. My father awoke from his coma to TV helicopter footage of New Orleans submerged by Hurricane Katrina. "What country is this?" he said. Apology to the lungs I doused with housepaint fumes, pork smoke, and daiquiri scent candles. Everything hidden inside that we rely upon to shape and inflate us will someday fail, overwhelmed by what's been asked of it, by its DNA, by a self-important brain. Imagine an endless supply of tools, so many ways to not need them, ways to not need anyone. Midweek blessing, New York City. Wednesday, I licked a twisty cone from the pink ice cream truck as I looped inside the perimeter of St. Patrick's Cathedral, lined with saint altars, with money boxes for colored votive candles to make a wish or buy yourself a blessing. My mom would be horrified, say to take my ice cream outside, below the 100-foot spires, like huge upside-down marble cones. She would pay to light an apology wick. Forgive her, St. Bernard, for she knows not what she does. Instead, I nod to St. Bridget, patron saint of dairymaids and poets. Eyeball the few flickers she has in her candle rose, happy some prayer whisperers chose her. My choco vanilla swirl cold blesses my tongue like none of these nice dead folks could. Repertoire. This is drinking water, right? My son asks, watching wavelets swish the boulders' seaweed tutus. Yes, they say, not knowing how it works, not knowing how much of anything works. A mower cuts the high grassy incline, holding all this water in, its blade apparatus angled along the steep slope, its cab with headphone driver inside remaining plumb. So many machines and systems engineered for real purpose. And then there's me, sitting on a rock trucked in to create a fake lake's berm. I wouldn't know how to fish here if we were starved. Could I save us both if we fell in? I can only write about cloud cover obscuring sun that aches to glint off water. I can sit here and conjure worthless words while my son wonders how long his phone might last if he tossed it in. He answers his own questions better than I could. If an earthquake split this miles around wall that never should have been here, how far into town will these waters keep swallowing? How much of this could we drink? Sometimes what looks like a lake is just construction, not ancient at all. Sometimes a woman is incapable of being anything more than a scratcher down of words, symbols, lips. It would be too easy to tumble off this cliff. And the last one, this is how to float like an apple. I have never been able to float pretty, like an inflatable doll, ungravitational atop a swimming pool's sky blue sheets. Like apples in a water-filled bucket, breaths held, open mouths bobbing for what teeth can claim. My body sinks, then reappears in parts at air level, just knees or hip or a squint shut face, cheeks chipmunk with stayed breaths. Once a man I met said I barely splash when I dive off the board. He meant petite. I heard inconsequential. Most water is colder than I want it. The way an apple skin might shine perfect, not Corvette red, rather gold, a blush chrysanthemum, but a bite sinks too easily into mealing mush. No one can be blamed for feeling cheated of crisp resistance or sugar or juice. No one can be blamed for what's expected of them. It's been too long since my skin was wet by river. I want to disappear underwater. River, never bucket, never bubbly rose water cloth or tub. I need some silt and to unfurl new gills, even if I disappoint by how my breath comes. Once a man I met said, compliments never hurt anybody, but I am that guy.